My mommy told me never to let you drink that. The little girl's voice cut through the room, soft enough to sound innocent, but clear enough to make every conversation stop. I had been holding a crystal glass of whiskey when she came running across the marble floor. I barely had time to turn before her small shoulder bumped into my hand. The glass slipped. Whiskey spilled across the white tablecloth, and the room went silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They all knew who I was. Ethan Callahan, the man whose name could empty a room without a single word. But that night, none of that mattered. Because the 7-year-old girl standing in front of me was looking at me like she had been expecting me. Her dark blonde hair was slightly messy. Her little pink sweater was too big around the sleeves. And in her hand, she held a folded piece of paper like it was the most important thing in the world. I stared at her. She stared back. "What did you just say?" I asked. She glanced toward the entrance. Then she looked at me again. "My mommy said you would be here." Something inside me went completely still. 7 years earlier, I had lost someone I thought I would never see again. Claire Bennett. I had spent years believing she was gone from my life for good. I had never allowed myself to imagine another ending. Then the little girl pointed toward the crowded doorway. "There she is." I turned, and for 1 second, the entire room seemed to disappear. Claire stood beneath the golden lights, frozen in place. Her face had gone pale. Her eyes met mine. She looked exactly like the memory I had tried to bury. Except now there was fear in her expression. Not fear of me. Fear of what I might discover. I took 1 step toward her. Claire immediately reached for the little girl's hand. "Lily," she whispered, "come here." Lily didn't move. She looked from her mother to me, confused. Then she slowly opened the folded paper in her hand. It was a photograph. Old. Faded. Creased along the edges. She held it up between us. My breath caught. The photograph showed a younger version of me standing beside Claire. We were smiling. We looked happy. And Claire was holding a newborn baby. I stared at the tiny face in her arms. Then I looked at Lily. 7 years old. The same eyes. The same small mark beneath her left ear. My hand tightened around the empty glass I was still holding. "Claire," I said quietly. "Who is she?" Claire didn't answer. Lily did. She looked straight into my eyes and said, "You already know." And in that moment, I realized the drink hadn't been the secret she was trying to stop me from discovering. For a few seconds, nobody in that room moved. I could hear the soft hum of the chandeliers above us, the distant clink of silverware, even the faint music coming from the ballroom speakers. But all I could focus on was the little girl standing between me and Claire. Lily. My eyes stayed on her face. Then I looked at Claire. "Who is she?" I asked again, quieter this time. Claire swallowed. Her fingers tightened around Lily's hand. "Her name is Lily Bennett." I heard her name. I took a slow breath. "I am asking who she is." Claire looked away. That was all the answer I needed to know something was wrong. I had known Claire long enough to recognize that silence. 7 years ago, she had been the only person who could make me forget the world outside a room. Then she disappeared without an explanation. I had searched for answers until there were none left to find. Eventually, I convinced myself that some people were simply meant to become memories. I had never expected one of those memories to walk back into my life holding a child's hand. Lily looked up at me. "Are you angry?" she asked. Her question caught me completely off guard. I lowered my voice. "No." She studied my face as if she were trying to decide whether I was telling the truth. "Mommy said you might be." I looked at Claire. "You told her about me?" Claire shook her head quickly. "Not like that." "Then what did you tell her?" Claire finally looked at me. Her eyes were tired. Not frightened. Tired. "I told her that some people leave because they think they have to." The words landed harder than they should have. I glanced at Lily again. She was still holding the photograph. "How old are you?" I asked. 7. 7. The number echoed in my mind. "When is your birthday?" Lily told me the date. I knew it before she finished. My chest tightened. It was the same week Claire had vanished. I looked back at Claire. "Why did you disappear?" She did not answer. Instead, she crouched beside Lily and gently took the photograph from her hands. "We should go." Lily frowned. "But I wanted to meet him." Claire froze. I felt something shift inside me. "Meet me?" I asked. Lily nodded. "Mommy said I was not supposed to ask questions." She paused. "But I wanted to know what my daddy looked like." The room seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Claire closed her eyes. I did not move. I could not. The word had already changed everything. "Daddy." I looked at Claire, waiting for her to deny it. She did not. And for the first time that night, I was not thinking about the people watching us. I was thinking about 7 birthdays I had never seen, 7 years of stories I had never heard, and a little girl who had somehow walked into my life carrying a truth I had never known existed. The words stayed in the air between us. Daddy. I had heard it thousands of times in movies, in crowded restaurants, from strangers calling their children across a park. But hearing it from Lily felt different. It was not a word anymore. It was a question. A question I had spent 7 years unknowingly waiting to hear. Claire stood slowly, keeping one hand on Lily's shoulder. We need to leave, she said. I stepped closer, but I stopped before I got too near. You are not leaving until you tell me the truth. Claire looked at me for a long moment. The truth is complicated. Then start with the part you know. She glanced toward Lily. The little girl was watching both of us, sensing something she could not fully understand. I lowered my voice. How long have you known? Claire looked down. Since before she was born. The answer struck me with a strange kind of silence. I looked at Lily again. She was holding the corner of her sweater, waiting patiently. Does she know who I am? I asked. She knows your name. Claire paused. She knows that you were important to me. Important? I repeated. That is what you told her? Claire's eyes met mine. What was I supposed to? Tell her? That her father was a man whose world was dangerous? That I left because I did not know who I could trust? I felt the old questions returning. 7 years of them. Questions without answers. Why did you think I could not be trusted? I asked. Claire's expression changed. For the first time, I saw something beneath the exhaustion. Regret. Because of what happened the night I left. Before I could ask more, Lily tugged gently on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, you said we were going to tell him. Claire closed her eyes for a moment. I know. Lily looked at me. There is something you need to see. She reached into the small bag hanging from her shoulder and pulled out a second photograph. This one was newer. It showed Claire standing outside a small white house. Beside her was Lily, much younger, maybe 4 years old. On the back, someone had written a date. I read it twice. Then I looked at Claire. Where was this taken? Pennsylvania, she said. 3 years ago. You were there all this time? She nodded. I felt something painful settle in my chest. Not anger. Something heavier. Why come here tonight? I asked. Claire looked toward Lily. Because she kept asking about you. Lily smiled faintly. I wanted to know if you were real. I almost smiled, but the emotion caught in my throat. Then Lily pointed at the photograph I had been holding. That is not the secret. I looked at her. What is? She leaned closer and whispered. Mommy told me never to show this to anyone. Claire immediately looked alarmed. Lily, wait. But the little girl had already reached into her bag again. This time, she pulled out a folded hospital document. My eyes went to the name printed across the top. Then everything inside me went cold. The document did not list Lily's father as unknown. It listed a name. Mine. The name on the document was mine. Ethan Callahan. I read it once. Then again. My mind refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. Claire watched me carefully, as if she had been waiting 7 years for this exact moment. Lily stood beside her, completely unaware of how much that single sheet of paper had changed everything. Why is my name on her birth record? I asked. Claire lowered her eyes. Because it was always supposed to be there. I looked at her. Then why did you hide it? She took a slow breath. Because someone had already started looking for her. The music in the ballroom continued behind us, but it sounded distant now. All I could hear was my own breathing. I had spent years believing Claire had chosen to leave me. Now I was beginning to understand that she might have been running from something much bigger than our relationship. I looked at Lily. Did you know this was in the bag? She nodded. Mommy told me not to show anyone. Why did you show me? Lily thought about it. Because you are my daddy. There was no hesitation in her voice. No doubt. Just a simple belief that made my chest tighten. I turned back to Claire. You let her grow up knowing I existed. I never wanted her to think you abandoned her, Claire said. But you did not tell me she existed. Her eyes filled with emotion. I wanted to. She paused. Every year, I wanted to. Then what stopped you? Claire looked toward the windows overlooking the city. A message. I waited. 7 years ago, after Lily was born, I received a letter. It said that if I contacted you, people would find us. It said Lily would never have a normal childhood. She looked at me again. I believed it. I felt a quiet ache settle inside me. Who sent it? Claire shook her head. I never knew. You never tried to find out? I tried once. Her voice became softer. That was enough to convince me I had to disappear. Lily suddenly looked toward the ballroom doors. Mommy. Claire turned. What is it? Lily pointed toward a man standing near the entrance. He was not watching the party. He was watching them. Claire's expression changed instantly. She reached for Lily's hand. We are leaving. I looked at the man, then back at Claire. You know him? She shook her head. No, then why are you afraid? Claire looked at me for several seconds before answering. Because I have seen him before. My attention returned to the doorway. The man had already turned away. Claire pulled Lily closer. This is why I did not want you to know about her. I looked down at the document in my hand. My name was there. Lily's name was there. But beneath them was another line I had not noticed before. A small notation near the bottom of the page. I read it carefully. Then I looked at Claire. What does this mean? Her face went pale. Ethan, do not ask me that here. I lowered the document. Claire, what does it mean? She whispered the words that made the room disappear again. It means Lily was never supposed to survive without someone finding her. For a moment, I could not move. Claire's words stayed between us. Lily was never supposed to survive without someone finding her. I looked at the document again, searching for something that might explain what she meant. The notation was small, almost hidden beneath the official information. It was not a name. It was a reference number. A record connected to the hospital where Lily had been born. We are going somewhere private, I said. Claire shook her head. Ethan, I cannot go with you. Why? Because the moment you take us somewhere connected to you, everyone who has been watching me will know I found you. I looked at Lily. She was holding her mother's hand and watching us with wide eyes. Then tell me where you feel safe. Claire hesitated. There is a hotel 2 miles from here. I used to work there. I nodded. Then we go there. She looked surprised. You are not asking questions? I have 7 years of questions. I looked at the document again. But I have a feeling we are about to get answers. We left through a quiet side entrance. The city was bright outside, filled with headlights, taxis, and people moving through the evening as if nothing had changed. Lily walked between us. She held Claire's hand with one hand and mine with the other. I did not know what to say. Neither did Claire. For the first time in 7 years, we were walking beside each other again. At the hotel, Claire led us into a small sitting room near the lobby. Lily sat on a couch and began drawing in a notebook she carried with her. Claire sat across from me. There is something you need to understand, she said. When Lily was born, the hospital record showed your name. I thought that meant she was safe. Then someone accessed the record. Who? I do not know. What did they change? Claire looked at the floor. They removed your name. I felt my jaw tighten. And the message? It arrived the next morning. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old envelope. The paper was worn at the edges. She placed it on the table between us. I did not touch it immediately. You kept this. For 7 years. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single page with only a few sentences. It warned Claire that if she tried to contact me, Lily's identity would be exposed. At the bottom was a phrase I recognized. A phrase used inside my organization. My eyes stopped on it. This was not written by a stranger, I said. Claire looked at me. What do you mean? Whoever sent this knew how we operated. She became silent. I looked toward Lily. She was still drawing. Then I noticed what she had drawn. A house. A woman. A little girl. And a man standing beside them. But there was something else. Above the house was the same symbol I had just seen on the hospital document. My heart sank. Claire, I whispered. Where did Lily learn that symbol? Claire stared at the drawing. Her face changed. I never showed it to her. Lily looked up from the page. It was on the door. I froze. What door? She pointed toward the window. The door at the place where Mommy told me we could never go back. It was on the door. Lily's words followed me through the night. I could not stop thinking about them. A symbol she had somehow remembered from years ago. A symbol connected to a hospital record, a warning letter, and now, apparently, a place Claire had been afraid to return to. I looked at Claire. Where was this house? She hesitated. Outside Harrisburg. How far? About 2 hours from here. I nodded slowly. Then that is where we need to go. Claire shook her head. No. Ethan, you do not understand. That house was supposed to be empty. Supposed to be? She looked at Lily. We lived there for almost 4 years. Then one morning, I found that symbol on the front door. I had never seen it before. I packed everything that day. I glanced at the drawing again. Lily had carefully colored the house blue. The symbol above it was drawn in black. Did anyone ever explain what it meant? I asked. No, Claire paused. But I saw it again after we moved. Where? On a letter. I stared at her. The same symbol? She nodded. That is when I realized someone had been keeping track of us. Lily looked up from her notebook. Mommy said the people with the symbol knew Daddy. Claire became completely still. I turned toward Lily. What people? She shrugged. I do not know. Mommy never told me. I looked at Claire. You knew this was connected to me. She looked down. I suspected. Why did you never tell me? Because I was afraid that the moment I contacted you, the secret would become a reason for someone to find us. I wanted to be angry, but I could not. I looked at Lily sitting quietly on the couch, drawing a family she had never actually had. 7 years had passed. 7 birthdays. 7 Christmas mornings. 7 years of photographs without me. I took a breath. We need proof, I said. Not just a story. Not just a symbol. Claire nodded. There is one place that might still have it. The hospital? Yes. She reached into her purse and pulled out another small envelope. I went back there 3 years ago. I asked for Lily's original records. They told me the file had been transferred. Transferred where? Claire looked at me. To a private archive. I felt a strange chill. Whose archive? She shook her head. They would not tell me. I stood and walked toward the window. The city lights stretched across the glass. Somewhere beyond them was a record that could answer the question I had been carrying since Lily walked into my life. Then my phone vibrated on the table. I looked at the screen. There was no name, just a message. I opened it. One sentence appeared. You should not have brought her back into your world. I stared at the words. Claire saw my expression. What is it? I turned the phone toward her. Her face lost its color. Lily looked between us. Is someone mad? She asked. I put the phone away. No, I said gently. Someone is worried. Claire looked at me. Ethan, what are you going to do? I looked at Lily. Then at the old hospital document still lying on the table. For 7 years, Claire had carried this secret alone. Now it was mine too. And for the first time, I understood the truth. I was not searching for an enemy. I was searching for the person who had spent 7 years making sure my daughter remained a secret. By the time the city lights began fading behind the windows, I had made a decision. We were going to find the original hospital record. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Claire looked at me as if she could already see the question forming in my mind. Where do we start? I asked. She hesitated before answering. St. Catherine Medical Center. That is where Lily was born. I nodded. Then we go there. Claire stood and reached for Lily's coat. Ethan, I need you to promise me something. What? Whatever you discover, do not let Lily see you become the man everyone else expects you to be. Her words stayed with me. I looked at Lily, who was carefully putting her crayons back into her notebook. What man do they expect me to be? Claire looked at me. The man who solves every problem with power. I almost smiled. You still think that is who I am? I do not know who you are anymore. That answer hurt more than I expected. 7 years had changed both of us. I had built an empire while Claire had built a quiet life for our daughter. We had both survived, but in completely different ways. On the drive to the hospital, Lily sat in the back seat between 2 cushions, looking through the window at the city lights. Every few minutes, she asked a question. Did you have a favorite color when you were little? I told her blue. She smiled. Mine is purple. A few minutes later she asked, did you ever have a dog? I told her I had. She wanted to know its name. The questions were simple, but each one felt like a tiny bridge between 7 years of silence. Claire listened quietly from the passenger seat. When we reached the hospital, she placed her hand on the door handle but did not open it. I have not been here in 7 years, she whispered. I looked at her. You do not have to do this alone. She turned toward me. That is the problem, Ethan. I have always done it alone. I did not know how to answer, so I simply held the door open for her. Inside, the lobby was quiet. A receptionist checked the old record system and told us that Lily's file had been moved to an off-site archive years earlier. I showed her the document Claire had kept. The receptionist's expression changed. This reference number is unusual, she said. Why? Because it was not part of the standard birth records. She looked at the screen again. It appears someone requested the file to be sealed. Claire stepped closer. Who requested it? The receptionist hesitated. There is a name attached to the request. She turned the monitor slightly toward us. I read the name. My stomach dropped. It belonged to a man I had trusted for more than a decade. Someone who had been beside me during the years Claire was gone. Someone who knew exactly how much I had lost. Claire looked at me. Who is that? I could barely answer. His name is Marcus Reed. Lily appeared beside us, holding my hand. Is he a friend? I looked down at her innocent face. Then I looked at the name on the screen. I thought he was. And for the first time, the mystery was no longer about a stranger hiding my daughter. It was about someone who had been standing much closer than I ever imagined. Marcus Reed. The name followed me all the way down the hospital hallway. For more than 10 years, I had trusted that man with parts of my life I had never trusted anyone else to know. He had stood beside me through difficult decisions, long nights, and moments when I thought I had finally learned how to live without Claire. Now his name was connected to the one secret that had shaped all 7 years of my daughter's life. I looked at Claire. Did you ever know Marcus? She shook her head. I have never met him. Lily was still holding my hand. She looked up at me. Is he the man from the door? I stopped walking. What did you say? She pointed toward the hospital entrance. The man from the picture. Claire immediately crouched beside her. Lily, what man? Lily opened her notebook and turned to a page she had drawn earlier. There was the same blue house from before. A tall man stood beside the front door. Underneath him, Lily had written a name in careful letters. Marcus. My heart sank. When did you see him? I asked. When we lived in Pennsylvania. Claire looked at me. She was 4. She barely remembered anything. Lily shook her head. I remember. Her little voice was calm. He gave Mommy an envelope. Claire's eyes widened. You remember that? Lily nodded. He said we should not stay there. I looked at Claire. You never told me Marcus was involved. Because I did not know it was him. She took a breath. I only saw him from a distance. I never knew his name. I turned back toward the receptionist. Can you show me the request record? She hesitated. I am sorry. I cannot release private information without authorization. I understood. She was doing her job. I thanked her and stepped away. Then my phone vibrated. Another message. This time, there was no warning. Just a photograph. It showed the same blue house Claire had lived in. Beneath the photograph was a sentence. You are looking in the wrong place. I stared at the screen. Claire came closer. What is it? I showed her. She covered her mouth with one hand. That is the house. I know. Ethan, that house was empty when we left. Maybe it was not as empty as you thought. I looked at Lily. She was staring at the photograph too. Then she quietly said, there was a room upstairs. Claire turned toward her. What room? The room Mommy told me never to open. Silence filled the hallway. I crouched beside Lily. Why could you not open it? She looked at me. Because there was a picture of you inside. I felt the world slow down. A picture of me? She nodded. And a picture of Mommy. Then she added something that made Claire step backward. There was another picture too. I waited. A picture of you holding me when I was a baby. Claire looked at me. I looked at her. Neither of us spoke. That photograph should not have existed. I had never held Lily as a baby. At least, I had never known that I had. Unless someone had taken it without my knowledge. Or unless there was a part of the story Claire had never told me. I looked at the hospital document. Again, my name. Lily's name. Marcus's request. The house. The photographs. The pieces were finally beginning to connect. But they were forming a picture I was not prepared to see. I turned to Claire. We are going back to that house. She shook her head. Ethan, I am afraid of what we will find. I reached for Lily's hand. So am I. Then I looked at the little girl who had changed everything in a single evening. But she deserves the truth. The drive to Pennsylvania felt longer than 2 hours. Claire sat beside me in silence, while Lily slept in the back seat with her notebook resting against her chest. The city disappeared behind us, replaced by dark roads, quiet fields, and the occasional glow of a gas station sign. I kept thinking about the photograph Lily had described. Me holding her as a baby. It should have been impossible. I had never known Lily existed. Yet someone had apparently known enough to create a record, hide a record, and preserve photographs from a life I had never been allowed to live. When we finally reached the town, Claire became tense. She pointed toward a narrow road between 2 rows of trees. That way. I followed her directions until the blue house appeared in the distance. It looked smaller than I expected. The porch light was off. The windows were dark. Claire stared through the windshield. This is where we lived. Lily woke in the back seat. She looked outside and became very quiet. That is the house. I parked across the street. For several seconds, none of us moved. Then Lily reached forward and touched the back of my seat. Daddy, I turned around. Yes. She pointed toward the house. That window. I followed her finger. What about it? That is where the picture was taken. My attention shifted to the second floor. One window stood slightly open. Claire whispered. That window was always locked. I looked at her. Are you sure? She nodded. I checked every night. We crossed the street together. I kept Lily between Claire and me, not because I expected danger, but because she was the one person who mattered most in that moment. The front door opened with a soft click. Claire stopped breathing for a second. I locked this door when we left. Inside, the house smelled old and quiet. Dust covered the furniture. Moonlight came through the windows and stretched across the wooden floor. Lily walked toward the staircase. The room is upstairs. Claire caught her hand. Stay with us. Lily nodded. We climbed slowly. At the end of the hallway was a small white door. Claire stared at it. I never opened that room. I reached for the handle. It turned easily. Inside was a narrow desk, a bookshelf, and several boxes stacked neatly against the wall. On the desk sat a single photograph. I picked it up. My breath stopped. It showed me standing beside Claire in a hospital room. Claire was holding a newborn baby. I was looking down at the child with a smile I did not remember. On the back was a date. 7 years ago. Claire stepped closer. Ethan. I turned the photograph over. Beneath the date was a handwritten sentence. He knew. Claire covered her mouth. I never wrote that. I looked around the room. Then I noticed a second box. Inside were copies of Lily's medical records, letters, photographs, and one sealed envelope with my name on it. I opened it carefully. The letter was short. Ethan, if you are reading this, then Claire finally brought you here. You deserve to know what happened. Lily is your daughter. But the reason you were kept apart was not because Claire stopped loving you. It was because someone close to you believed your daughter could be used to control your future. I read the final line twice. And that person has been protecting the secret from the beginning. I looked at Claire. Who knew? She shook her head. Then my phone vibrated. A message appeared from Marcus. We need to talk. I stared at the screen. For 7 years, I had believed I had lost Claire. I had believed I had missed the chance to know my daughter. Now I understood something much harder. Someone had made sure I never got the chance at all.